Good morning, Year 4. How are you? And welcome to today's maths lesson. Today we are going to be looking all about equivalent fractions. And before we do that, I have some daily fluency questions for you to answer here. So spend 3 minutes answering the following questions on your piece of paper, please. Pause the video now. Okay, number 1, 124 multiplied by 4. You know that we could use the short multiplication written method, giving us the answer of 496. Number 2, the value of the digit 5, well, we can see it's positioned in the hundred column, so it would be representing 500. Number 3, what fraction of each shape is shaded? Well, I know that I have got 9 squares and 5 of them are shaded, so it would be 5/9. And for number 2, I know I've got 4 triangles and 1 is shaded, so that is 1/4. And for the final one, I have got 1 circle and it's not been split up into any shapes, so the answer is going to be 1/1 or 1. Okay, now finally, draw a shape with the area of 8 squares. You could have a shape like this. It could be the other way around. As long as you've got an area of 8 squares and your shapes are all touching by the sides, not the corners, that is classed as a shape with an area of 8 squares. Okay, let's have a look at today's learning then. So today we are going to be using the word equivalent quite a lot. So, do you know what the word equivalent means? Where have you heard that word before? Pause the video and have a think. Okay, well, the word equivalent means of equal value, amount, or meaning. So if something is equivalent to something else, then they have the equal value, amount, or meaning. And let's have a look at some examples to help this make sense. Now I could have 5 £1 coins. This is equivalent to one £5 note. They are worth the same. They have equal value. Another example, I could have 3 add 3, which is 6. Now this is equivalent to 5 add 1, because 5 add 1 is also 6. I could look at units of measurement. So I could look at 1 centimetre, which is equivalent to 10 millimetres. They are the same. And in today's lesson, we are going to be looking at equivalent fractions. So fractions that are different because they look different, but they have equal value. They mean the same. They have the equal amounts. Okay, so here I have a bar, and we're going to use the bar model today to help us to work out equivalent fractions. Now, I could split my bar in half, so I can see that I have got 2 halves. Now, I could shade in one of these halves and then create another bar underneath. And in my new bar, I've decided that I want to split this shape into 4 sections. And I want to think, well, how much of my second bar is equivalent to this half? Now, I can see that I've split my second bar into quarters because I have 4 altogether, and each section is worth 1 out of that 4. Now, can you see that if I shade in 2 of my quarters, that is equivalent to 1/2 because they are now the same shape. And we can look by drawing a rectangle around my 1/2 bar, and I can match it up with my 1/4. So I can see that 1/2 is equivalent to 2 quarters. They are the same. Let's have a look at another example. Now this time I've split my bar into 4 sections. So what would each fraction of each part of my bar be now? That's right, each fraction would be worth 1/4. Now this time I'm going to colour in my 2 quarters again, which is the same as half of my bar. We know that from the last slide. And I've got another bar, and this time I'm going to split my bar into 8 sections. So what's the fraction of each part of my bar going to be if I've split it into 8 parts? That's right, they're going to be worth 1/8. Now I want to work out how many eighths are equivalent to 2 quarters? Do you think you know? Shall we have a look? Well, if I shade in 4/8, I can see here that I've made the same amount as I have got with my 2 quarters. So how many eighths are equivalent to a half? How many are shaded in? 4/8 are equivalent to a half. So 2 quarters are equivalent to 1/2, which is also equivalent to 4/8. And we found that through looking at the bar model. Now, another example here is we could have 2 bars, and one of these bars are split into 3 parts. So what's my fraction going to be for each part? 1/3, fantastic. And I've split my other bar into 6 parts. So what's each fraction going to be here? 1/6. Great job, you are so super at fractions, well done. Now, what I want to do is I want to find the equivalent fraction. I want to know what 2/3 is equivalent to. And I know that my top bar is representing my thirds, so if I coloured in 2/3, how many 6 would I have? Pause the video and have a think. Shall we find out the answer together? So if I coloured in 2/3, I can see that I would have 4/6, and 4/6 is equivalent to 2/3. I have another bar this time, and this time I've split my first bar into thirds again, but my second bar is split into 12 parts. So what is each of the parts of the bar? What is their fraction going to be for one part of my bar? How many sections do I have together? And how many would I be shading in? So that would be finding a 12th. Well done. Now I can see that 1/3 is equivalent to 4/12. I know this because they are the same. If I wanted to work out how many the equivalent of 2/3, how many 12ths would that be? That's right, it would be 8/12. And if I wanted to work out 3/3, how many 12ths would that be? 12/12. Well done, super. So we are using a bar model to see how we can find equivalent fractions. Now, this time again I have my same bar. Can you see how many sections there are? That's right, there are 12 sections. So I have split my bar into 12ths. Now I have found 4/12 so far, and I can see this because I've shaded in 4 sections in green and the rest altogether I have 12. So I have made the fraction 4/12. What I want to do is I want to find what fraction I would use to make a unit fraction, remembering that my unit fraction has a numerator of 1. I want to split this bar so that I have got 1 over something. Can you pause the video and have a think? This is a bit tricky. What would my fraction be if I was making a unit fraction from this shape? Okay, shall we have a look? Was that quite tricky? Don't worry if it was, because I'm going to show you how to do it now. So to make a unit fraction, I can see that I have got 12 parts altogether. And what I can do is I can cover in the part that I have shown with 4/12. I can cover in those 4 parts. And can you see I have got 2 groups of 4 remaining? So my bar in red has now been split into 3 parts, and 1 part has been shaded in red. So I can split my bar into thirds, making 1/3. So 4/12 can be equivalent to 1/3 too. I want you to now have a go at the questions 1 to 4 on the worksheet. So pause the video here now and have a go at those, please. Okay, so we have looked at how we can use the bar model to help us so far. Now, Tiny the Turtle has used lots of bar models here, and he thinks that he could use any of these bar models to show 1/2 of the bar. Is he correct? Pause the video and have a think. How did you get on? Did you find out that we cannot find half of every bar that's here because of the way that it's been split? If we look at the bottom example here, how many sections, how many parts has this bar been split into? That's right, it's been split into 10 parts. Can we find half of 10? Yes, we can. What is half of 10? 5. Well done. So we can shade in half of this shape. Oh, another one's appeared at the bottom here, and this was the example. So we could find the half of this shape because we can split it in half and find 2 parts. But thinking back to this shape here, where we had 10 parts, we know that we could split this into 5s, and that would be half. Now, just skipping this one for a moment and thinking of this one, can we split the top shape into half? We can, can't we? Because how many sections has this bar been split into? 6. And what's half of 6? 3. So we would colour in 3 parts of 6 altogether. So 3/6 would be equivalent to half. In the same way that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/10 would be equivalent to my half here. Could I split this bar into halves by using the bars that it's been split into? No, I couldn't, could I? How many sections do I have? I have 3 sections. Can I split 3 in half equally? No, I can't, could I? Because it would be 1.5, and that is not an equal measurement. We need it to be a whole number. So we couldn't split the last one in half. We could split it in thirds though. So now it's your turn to have a go at the rest of the worksheet. Pause the video here. Okay, your final job for today is to complete those reasoning and problem solving questions. So I've given you 2 here, and the first one, you need to look at each of the shapes. So some of them is, well, the top one is a bar, and that's been split in a certain way. The next one is a different shape, and a different shape. Can you work out each of the fractions to the shape and then figure out which one the odd one out is? And then can you explain why it's the odd one out using that word because? And the second problem solving question today is to explain how this diagram shows both 2/3 and 4/6, showing what you know about equivalent fractions and what you've learnt today. Fantastic listening today, Year 4. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you in our next lesson. Goodbye.